peek behind the curtain of the Softly Training Lab with the Softly Performance Podcast. The pinnacle of human performance is out there, and we intend to find it.
Welcome to the next episode of the Softly Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Coach G, and I've got Coach Matt, our old standby, and HMFIC, Brent Phillips with us today. Today, the prompt is, or this notion of that I've seen on the zeitgeist as far as social media is concerned, is periodization is dead. And it's kind of frustrating because I feel like Matt's probably, we got in the field around the same time. This notion that traditional periodization, meaning foundation first, then hypertrophy, then strength, then power, and 3-month blocks, etc., is a dated model, which it is and it isn't. And that's what this podcast episode is about. And it's also this kind of old man frustration with like saying it like it's a new fucking idea. People have been saying that for years. It's kind of like saying rock and roll is dead. Like it's still around, you know?
It shouldn't be. Come on.
Well, they keep saying it's
dead. Get rid of it. Just get more drum and bass. We don't need rock and roll.
Well, I could see, the guy from the UK wanting more drum and bass. But anyway, essentially what this episode is about is kind of pulling the curtain back on what is periodization in the sense of like, why does it matter? What does it look like today versus traditional model? Because social media being what it is, very dogmatic and very binary, they kind of take all the nuance out of the argument. So no, periodization is not dead. It just accounts for your particular environment. And the military first responder knows that better than anyone as far as we don't have time to just focus 3 months on hypertrophy alone. At some point, you will encounter situations where that quality alone may leave you lacking. So we do account for hypertrophy. You have different emphasis on what you're trying to focus on. The other thing I wanted to talk about related to that is contrast training. I sent the guys French contrast as something I wanted to talk about. But before we get into that, let's talk about periodization. Is it dead? So, Matt, why don't we? No, Brent, you've been out. Why don't we start with you? When I say a traditional structured program has no place in today's world, what is your rebuttal?
Man, that's my rebuttal is that the people who are spouting that are probably trying to give hot topics for clicks and views. So, and I don't actually know that if you're talking about somebody trying to increase performance past basic life function, that there's a lot of truth and merit to that. Meaning, I don't think that if you're trying to actually get an increase in performance, we're trying to better our 5K time, we're trying to increase our maximal rep maxes, whatever it is, we're actually no shit trying to increase performance. I don't think that a non-periodized model is going to be superior to periodized training. Like, we buy into periodized training pretty hard here. That's what we block it out. If only for the idea of any training plan, the greatest training plan that you could write is totally fucking useless if nobody wants to do it. So if only in the name of athlete compliance, periodized training is worth it in that sense versus non-periodized. If you were doing the same, I don't even know what their fucking splits look like, but let's say they have a 30-day rolling or whatever it is that they're gonna, at some point you're periodizing your training though. Like, your periods may look really short, but there's periodization to this training no matter what, right? Otherwise, like, is it different shit in perpetuity? Now, what's it actually look like if it's not periodized training? I almost can't conceptualize that well unless you show me what their argument is. Does that make sense? Like a non-periodized model, or if you're going to have single modality athletes. So I guess for a single modality athlete, you could probably make an argument for this. If they're just a runner, they're just a swimmer, et cetera, you could maybe make an argument for it. I still don't think a great one. But you could maybe make one. But when you have a multi-dimensional athlete, it's very challenging to say that we're not going to have periodized training. I think
multidimensional is a good way to put that. You have to have areas of focus. And I think the argument comes from the old Soviet Union model where the state supported the training. You had a wide battery of population to draw from, and the strongest survived quite literally. So then we had the luxury of being like, for the next 3 months, you're focused on strength. We're going to juice you up. Yeah. And if you survive, great. But I think the argument is that approach, the quaternary programmatic model for Olympic athletes, does not apply at all, ever. And I think it's a bit disingenuous because there are elements of that we can take. And I think that's what I'm trying to champion for, is that we're not saying the industry grabbed onto this notion of periodization is dead, as if we couldn't have different foci for certain amounts of time. And it's kind of frustrating as a practitioner, because to say that we can't, Brent, for you, focus purely on function for the next 3 months, that's going to fuck you up somehow. I don't know. There's nuance here. I think it's really interesting.
Well, and all of these training plans end up there's the argument.
To some degree. Yes, they have to, right?
It may not be, undulating periodization, but there's going to be periodization, period, in the fact that you're writing a training plan. Even if all you did was write down a 30-day training plan, and then you said you're just going to repeat that. There's going to be that becomes your periodization, right? And you may not have the peaks and valleys like we know, but now you're still going to end up, your body is going to end up going through something, unless I guess if you're really, where it becomes a non-effort or where the nuance goes away is if you're literally going to lower the bar for the workload so that you're never bumping into a rep max, you're never bumping into a maximal effort, then you could have a truly, like if your training plan was you're going to walk a 5K every day, and you're going to do 100 pull-ups, 100 push-ups, and 100 air squats. If that was your training plan and you were going to do that exact same thing every fucking day for the rest of your life, I guess, sure, then you could have a training plan that doesn't have some semblance of periodization. But if you were ever going to test a rep max, if you're ever going to test a maximal effort, be it time, distance, reps, weight, etc., you're going to have some type of periodization.
I think that's the issue. So my head immediately goes to combat sports, to tennis, to military first responders, and how they don't necessarily have the luxury of a traditional off season, where the off season is the same time every year. It's going to change depending on the environment. Like, is there a different tournament coming up? Whether travel implications there? You've got a title fight, so to speak. Not that I have one of those coming up, but that doesn't happen on a finite timeline. It always happens in January. Like, it doesn't work like that. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I guess kind of to echo what you were just saying, G, I think the elephant in the room for this is I know we've talked about this before, this idea of whether you need constant readiness or not in your role. So let's kind of keep this within tactical. And you see, like, constant readiness, I think, was even, or something words to that effect, was even like TSAC's strapline at one point. And you have to ask the question whether the person you're working with or whether you're that tactical professional, like, is that actually what you need? Are you actually going to be potentially going out the door to do your job, your tactical job, like in the next few hours? Do you need that readiness? And some roles, like you could argue maybe some SWAT teams, some guys that are on QRF type positions might need that. And I think with those kind of people, you just have to respect that you can't smoke them. You're probably not going to want a supercompensation effect, depending on the nature of their role. And then you just have to work on kind of maintenance, microdosing, and things like that. But it's still very much periodized. And I'll kind of come back to that in a sec. But that's kind of the big differential that people make within tactical. But they, from my observation, is they put everyone in the same bucket. Or because you're wearing some kind of uniform, you're in a non-traditional. You have to be in a non-traditional training structure. And I don't think that's true. I think a lot of people know when their deployment cycles are going to be. They know when professional courses are coming up. They know when selections are, until you can periodize. And I would argue, kind of like to echo Brent, I would argue that you should periodize, probably not using the same models or the exact same models lifted from Olympic weightlifting in drug-fueled 60s Russia. But you should absolutely have different focuses for different training phases. Otherwise, everything just becomes meh. There's no focus, there's no intent.
Practitioners, and further, Matt, one of the points that one of these practitioners had was supercompensation is a myth. So what when I saw that, I'm like, come on, bro. Come on. Like, so here's the other thing. It's something about dogmatic thinking. Just because it is written, people tend to want to think like this is the way it always is. For example, the force velocity curve, which Matt and Brent are familiar with. I want you to imagine an XY axis. And on one side of the vertical axis, you have force. And on the other is speed. The more force you can express, the less velocity. So think of a 1 rep max trap bar deadlift versus a sprint. Now, people who bash the force velocity curve say, it's only representative of 1 repetition. It's not real world. Sprinting is maximal force. We just simply use that image or idea to explain certain things. If you're fucking lifting heavy ass weight, There's a good deal of velocity involved, but I think we would all agree it takes a while to get, it's like around 3 seconds for 1 rep max. The velocity is the key point there as far as the ratio between the force and the velocity. Sprinting is maximal force of very high velocity. And it just bugs me that people like tear it apart and be like, it doesn't work. So anyway, going back to what else, my original.
Just real quick, G. So we had my, like the professor that ran my MSc program he's not going to listen to this. He was a turbo biomechanics nerd, like a little bit of sports science, but mainly came from like applied maths and biomechanics. So he was super into this stuff. And he's actually written quite a few books on this because that's how much of a nerd he is. And he was very much of the idea of, exactly like you were saying, using the curve to illustrate stuff for yourself and athletes. But he would talk about calling it the load velocity curve because that mathematically makes more sense, because then you don't have, as you're applying load, things slow down, as you're applying external load. And it means that things like sprinting then don't fuck up that kind of curve.
I dig that. I'm going to start saying that instead of force. We get fucking strength coaches
semantics,
are dumb.
but sorry, G,
yeah.
you go.
Well, semantics matter. Because then, again, these people pick it apart and say, it's not true. But where was I going with that? The quandary.
I don't know.
Supercompensation. Yeah. Supercompensation. So this particular practitioner says that stress, the kind of stress that you expose yourself, we assume that if we take a break, you're automatically going to peak. And to use that word peak, like it goes back into that argument of periodization is dead. And it kind of like, it doesn't necessarily piss me off. It's just quite reductive in saying like supercompensation doesn't exist because it comes from Hans Selye, instead an endocrinologist, not strength conditioning or physical preparation. So yeah, Brent, looks like you had something to say.
So I've seen a practitioner who I like a lot of their stuff. He errs more to the side of individualized training and very heavy on running. So he's doing individualized training programs weighted heavily towards running. And so I don't actually agree with, for the tactical professional specifically. And so I don't really agree with him on the degree to which he takes it in certain directions. And he doesn't agree to the degree, he does not agree with the degree to which we take some training in other directions. And that's fine. But I think if you drew a Venn diagram, there's more overlap there than is not. And he was making a point that in a linear undulating model or a periodized model where you're generally going to try to go up in weight, velocity, etc., that is tied to kind of an obscure idea of the way that your body's going to recover and respond to the training. And that may or may not be true. So when you look at percentage and rep bases, he was basically saying, hey, that's bullshit. We shouldn't be training with that because your body may be different. And for a lot of people, I agree. For our population, I really don't agree, just because we have a much tighter, if you're a trainer and I've been this guy, if you're a trainer at a 24-hour fitness, you may have one person that you're training who can deadlift 500 pounds. You may have another that can't sit down on the toilet because they're fucking 90. And you may be training the same people in the same day. And while their bodies may not respond to training in any similar way, shape, form, or fashion, when you have a population of a tight shot group that's very close in weights, sizes, etc., like we have, it's a lot easier to go, generally speaking, the healthy individual is going to recover in this manner unless they have fucked up sleep, nutrition, alcohol abuse, blah, 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 blah. There are extenuating circumstances that will hamper that, but it's a pretty tight shot group of people, whereas other people that are training the masses, they are dealing with a different spread of athlete, if you will. So I think there was some validity to it. I don't even think he was going so far as to say in that vein that some type of periodization is ineffective. I don't think he would take that stride. Where it's effective. Go ahead, Matt. Do you have something?
No, you finish, Ben.
Yeah, I think where people forget is that, or where people forget it and lose it, is that a periodized training plan from our lens is going to address weaknesses in a multidimensional athlete. Meaning, if you have to sprint, run long distance, lift heavy shit, move your body, bend, maybe you want to gain size or lose size, those things are all taking place while maintaining a baseline standard. So if you were going to say, hey, we need a guy to stay at selection level fitness, meaning he's got to make a bare minimum 5-mile run in 40 minutes, 12-mile hike with a 45-pound pack at 3 hours, 18 pull-ups or whatever the hell it is. Like you picked all those obscure numbers. They're typically relatively low as far as the human body is concerned. And you could probably do the same thing week after week and maintain that without having to move at all. Now, if you do that, you're probably not going to be a high performer in any organization in any one area, but you'll probably not be the lowest performer either, right? There's going to be somebody that's injured, that's a little bit slower than you, etc. That's not the culture that's cultivated at any high-level organization, so you're not going to see it. So when you want to see somebody who has an advanced training age start to make improvements while maintaining a baseline, because that's what a lot of these people forget that we have to do. We have to maintain a base level of fitness across all these modalities while increasing certain others. The periodized training models are really the only option. You couldn't run a guy in the red and say, we're going to get everything way fucking better, way faster in perpetuity. That doesn't work.
I agree.
So you are muted.
I think muted.
Amateur. I said I wish it
Amateur
did.
hour. He's got like a real studio and shit.
Kind of. I make it look like one. That's the key word
Well,
there, look.
And it probably depends on your training age. Like I deployed with a dude who was much older than I was and did well at all the things. And that dude did the same shit in the gym every single time he walked in there. I never saw him load a barbell with more than 135. Dude looked like a fucking Greek god. And he'd been a collegiate swimmer, phenomenal genetics, not really a tight nutrition plan, kind of went in and, as he put it, slimed his way through the same exact workout every day. And he was in he looked great, was performing pretty decent, not great, but performing pretty decent and could do the things he needed to do. But he also, was on the back end of his career. He was more worried about not getting injured than being a high performer. The list goes on and on.
I suppose, it depends on, no, you're good, man. It depends on their goals. Like right when you were saying that, I've mentioned this guy before, but he was in the 70s, still working. And his goals and my goals for him are going to be very different than the guy who's in his 20s. Like, for example, it's a bit simplistic to say this. I don't think it's worth an episode, but to say that stretching is a waste of time, if you think about it, if I put load on your back and I tell you to squat, you're telling those muscles to stretch. The reason I bring that up is this guy, pre and post, in the morning when he would show up, would go through the fucking like the whole battery of stretches, and then post, like very old school. But the thing was, it was working for him. So for me, I'm not going to tell him, hey, you need to stop that. Like, he's in his 70s and he's still fighting. Like, it's very much like training a high level athlete, like an elite level. Like, don't break him. He's already there.
You hit the nail on the head there, G. And I think it's so easy for us as coaches and people who are interested in this world to like really nerd out on the details and like argue for one style versus another style and it being better. Realistically, we're making arguments that are hypothetical and that are happening on paper or on spreadsheets nowadays. And it ultimately doesn't mean shit. Like Brent said, if the athlete doesn't enjoy it or buy in, then who cares? And that's obviously a big part of athletics and competitive sport is believing that you're as prepped as you possibly can so you can kind of perform. For us, it's like next level. Like you have to show up on duty, to selection, on deployment, knowing that you've done everything you possibly could to be in the best position possible. And if that's like, I didn't really agree with the coach, what I did was shit, but like I ticked the boxes, I got it done. No, like regardless of what you've done, I would argue you're not going to be as completely prepared, like as in like physiologically and psychologically prepared, as if you just done 100 bicep curls every day, but you believed in your heart of hearts that was the best thing you could do. I reckon you'd show up and you'd have as good, if not a better performance having done that with that belief than you would without, just because I think that's so underappreciated and so important.
I'm so glad you brought that up because when I would coach these guys and they would come in, firstly, we go to periodization. Periodization in model isn't going to work. I remember having an intern. Now, this is a different population. I had 2 rugby guys come in from Argentina to work with me, and I was doing contrast training with them. And I was doing specific exercises, like instead of a traditional single arm overhead press, half kneeling, I had him doing a landmine, and I believe it was a reverse landmine. And the intern with me was like, why are we doing that? The literature says. I'm like, bro, they're only here for 2 fucking weeks. I want to make sure they have a great experience. So further to your point, if I had come in and tried to coach it like I would fucking high school kids, like, no, you got to do it like this, like this, like this, like this, already the distrust is going to almost lend themselves to throw out the whole program when they're gone. And for me, I'm thinking super fucking long game. I'm thinking 10 years from now, where's their head going to be at? And I'm going to show them everything that I have and acknowledge, hey, you may not like all of this. I remember I would say this before we even fucking started training. I'm going to show you a lot of shit. And if you think something resonates with you, if you think it's important, do that fucking thing. I could give two fucks about the other things as long as you take this new thing with you home. And what ended up happening is that would establish trust. So then if they like that one thing, they would now start to explore the other things. And then next thing you know, like, okay, now you are doing my program versus saying, oh, well, it doesn't work, so we're not going to do it. Stretching doesn't work, so we're not going to do it. So yeah, I think maybe as coaches, we get too attached to what the literature says, what's on paper.
Well, there's also a lack of diving into that literature. So if you're looking at a study that examined 22-year-old college student males with a low physical fitness level, the data points there are probably not going to translate great to 30 to 40-year-old males, 30 to 50-year-old males with a decade or two of training age and a laundry list of injuries.
I was just going to say it's the compensations and the injuries that come with that as well, I think.
Yeah. So it's funny because we get into these debates, and I see these debates a lot from a coach's perspective of what they're trying to accomplish in the gym, because often that's what a good athlete is going to walk in and say, especially the loud ones. Well, I want my deadlift to go from 500 to 545, or I want my run time to go from a 19-minute 5K to an 18, like whatever it is that their goal is. And so now you're looking at the best possible approach to that. But for our population, the right answer might be like, hey, bro, you know what? Your fucking 10K time or your 5K time is great. You're ahead of peers. That's not the thing that matters right now. You can't bench press your way out of a fucking wet paper bag or deadlift your way out of it. Let's start doing some things that matter, right? Or your maximal speed, your 5-10-5 sucks. You're not rotating, you're not pivoting, you're not doing these other things that are going to become more important. You're not a fucking runner. Like 5Ks are not your job. The triathlon is not your job. Powerlifting is not your job. There's these other things that are probably weak points in your performance that we need to address first. One of those things is movement quality and movement variability. So I see a lot of debate into rep work, percentage work, the type of training, how many reps and sets are optimal, blah, 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 blah. And we rarely see people talk about rotation, counter rotation, multiplying things by velocity, right? Throwing. All of those things are very rarely in the conversation. And to me, that's like kind of where the conversation needed to live. If you were consistently 2-3 days a week, pushing some variant of a rep max across a few different movements, and you're rotating, you're throwing, you're sprinting, you're jumping, probably going to stay relatively fit and be on a lot better footing versus the guy who did the perfect training plan for, and I'm talking about the tactical population or multi-sport athletes, however you want to look at that. You're going to be better off doing that than the guy who has the perfect bench press plan or the perfect 5K plan, generally speaking, or the best bench press and 5K plan. If we're leaving out the rotation, counter rotation, which is insanely important, you're leaving a lot on the table.
It's something that I'm getting into the weeds here, very specific, but Home Gym Con just happened, and they've got technically 4 players on the digital resistance front. And the amount of arms, functional trainer arms that I'm seeing come out is very exciting. But when I look at the digital resistance, so the companies out there, Speediance is a new player on the space. Voltra has been around for a couple of years. Rep One has been working on their stuff for a number of years, and it's going to come out soon. And now I think Fringe Sport is coming out with one too. And none of them have talked about, when I see rotation being focused on, it's always in this passive, low velocity, let me focus on core work, not how can I demonstrate force violently or with speed. And it's kind of not irritating. It's just kind of like, why isn't anybody thinking about this? I don't understand why.
Yeah, you got to look at the sandbag companies, man. It's because they're selling a fucking widget that doesn't go fast very well.
Yeah.
Versus the widget that does go fast well. So like a lateral sandbag throw, which is almost a fucking mainstay of our training, that's not super sexy for a gear company to sell.
Can't sell it to me for $2,000. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of a fucking nightmare too, because now you're yeeting an expensive bag that somebody wants to have a warranty across the ground, right? So that's, I think, where you see a lot of that difference is, what is that person selling? Now, obviously, we're selling some shit too, so you could accuse us of the same things, but I think it's harder to accuse us when we highlight other companies that are doing well that are direct competitors. But no, at Home Gym Con, like the jammer arms and even like the cables, like I was doing cable chops yesterday, but explosively, not super controlled, right? And some of the movements you guys would have us do previously for rotation, counter rotation, I don't even know what the fuck they're called anymore that I'm like working into
Chops
my training that I'm doing. Yeah, it's chops and lifts, right? So, but an explosive chop, you can do that on most cable machines as long as it's got the distance to run that cable out. And same with bands, etc. But it's not as sexy as a jammer arm that you can load up with X amount of pounds and, get your turns, etc. into it.
Maybe one day I'll get one.
I'm obviously all about it being cheap. That's like not requiring any equipment, do it anywhere. And one of the simplest things to do with that is just run curvilinear, like run like a soccer, like a football penalty curve, like run that curve, run the center curve. And where you can start getting pretty cool with our world is, like we've talked about before, how well can you separate upper and lower? So can you run that curve while keeping your upper body or your head or arms, however kind of into this you want to get? Can you keep that stable or looking at a target while your lower body runs a curve? That's a huge amount of trunk, anti-rotation and rotation as you go at the same time. And it has, I would argue, direct transfer to what we're required to do in a lot of roles.
I'm glad that you guys brought that up. It's curvilinear sprinting was something that's very important to me, let's say late stage training, because it's more real. Like you're not really running in a straight line for 50 meters. I mean, it happens, but generally you're going to have to move around a little. And I think curvilinear running was a great way to kind of, again, make it more real, facilitate more transfer to the real world. When we think about the forces that your ankles, your toes, your knee, your hip are being exposed to. Now, when we say curvilinear, there are different angles to that. Okay, so you've got your long distance curve and you got your short distance curve. Use your head. Apply those 3 rules. So I would say if it turns into an O-lineman drill, you're probably, unless you're playing football, you're probably getting a little crazy there. So,
well, and what's your lead into that, right? Are you pivoting hard in a direction after a 40-yard dash, or are you pivoting hard after a 5-yard dash? Because that's 2 very different loads that are going to go onto your body, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's where I think there could be that's where there's a lot of leeway in the spreadsheets fucking a guy up, because you get these kids, frankly, that went from whatever their school training online seminar was, their theoretical understanding of programming. They never trained in a gym, meaning they never passed hundreds of people through their watch in person for months and years on end. And now they go, man, how sick would it be to get a maximal effort sprint into a pivot? And I'm like, well,
go for it.
Walk outside and give it a whirl before you do it, and then report back after your hospital visit. But, that's where I've seen that intersect quite a lot. Honestly, you saw it more in the like work capacity days where that was really popular, where you're like, dude, you have 1,000 burpee box step-ups programmed. Like, have you ever done that? Like once? You ever done once? One time? Is this a typo? Have you ever done 100? Like 100 is a motherfucker, right? And
yeah.
Not super beneficial, I would argue, for anything other than doing 100 burpee box step-ups in full kit. But you saw that, I think. What's that?
Sorry, I saw a particular, let's say, operator, and he wanted to know, it was in Romania, and he wanted to know, so already I kind of created a funnel as far as what unit this was. But he wrote out a workout, a WOD, because I could tell there was a level of insecurity there.
Ringing. As soon as it starts getting called that, you're like, do I want to see what it looks like?
And dude, the shit he put on there, I'm like, this is fucking stupid. Like, what the fuck? Like, why are you doing this? Like, you're trying to get
capacity.
Yeah, man, it really pissed me off. And then, of course, now I know I was not talking shit about the guy stretching and saying this guy over here is stretching and he's doing good. Then he goes and stretches and he's like, yeah, my hips are fucked up. I'm like, bro, you're a fucking idiot when it comes to your training. Like, you're not doing anything right.
These are why
I don't know why I went on that.
Up.
Well, so anyway, I guess the reason I said that is because what you just described, 1,000 burpees and box jumps, like it was very much that work capacity, work capacity, work capacity, work capacity. A notion I want you guys to think of, particularly if you're in that position where you're responsible for other people's training, are you just making the athletes better at being tired? That's something.
Yeah, a bit of a deviation because of the base of people that we train, our group of customers, whatever you want to call it, athletes, fatletes, whatever you want to call the people doing soft weight training. They need some work capacity, right? And the way you develop that, I think, looks different than what a lot of people think. However, the way you test that, I still think there's a benefit to testing
Sure.
that. So I'm actually going to write out a test drill that it's not in the work capacity vein. It's more of an intersection of shooting and athletic capability. But when you look at it, I think that there's merit to our population in saying, hey, you're going to take these water jugs or these two 53-pound kettlebells, and you're going to take them for a ride for an hour. Is that the best way to increase, muscular endurance and grip strength endurance and all the things? No. But is the grit required of that still valuable? I think it is, specifically when you have things that are common in use, like ammo cans and water jugs and things like that, so that you know how much you have to manage those things, right? So if you're going to move, you have a truck that's been destroyed and you've got to move under fire and it's a 200-meter movement from one truck to the next, I think it's valuable to know that at a haul-ass pace, you get about 50 meters before you really fucking slow down and become an easy target, right? And so now instead of walking the 200, you're going to do bite-sized chunks. I think there's real-world application, but again, I think that's 10, maybe max 20% of your training. I don't think it's anywhere near what we saw in the old days of like every training was a kit training day and you're like, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
I'd say
I think in my
majority.
mind, that's a test.
It's a test, yeah. So I've been calling it rehearsals. Like that's a rehearsal. It's kind of like you don't need to go do a single fucking ruck run to hit selection event times with a ruck on. I've done it. You don't have to do a single fucking ruck run to get ready, but it's a good idea to do the time trial. Somebody might pull that out and go, you should be rucking to get ready for selection. I agree, just because I want you to be confident that when you put that 45-pound ruck on and go move 12 miles or 15 miles in under 3 hours. I think it's 12 and under 15 and under 3 is the time standard now. But you don't have to do that in order to have the capability, if that makes sense. And I would argue the majority of your training for those events shouldn't be time under a ruck unless you really fucking suck under a ruck and somehow decide you want to go a rucking selection.
I have a random question that doesn't really have to do with the subject that we're talking about. So when I was in Romania, shout out to Hill People Gear. They make amazing equipment. And anybody
they're made in USA too.
Yes, made in USA, very compliant. They're partnered with First Spear. That's who makes their stuff. So anyway, I don't know if you know those guys, but I love Hill People Gear. And I had one of their bags. I think it was the Ute. You could fucking load that thing up 80 pounds or so. Like, no problem. The 80 pounds would feel like 30. And the reason I bring that up is, for me, it wasn't a big deal to have 60 pounds in there when everybody else had 35. And I'm fucking smoking it. That's not my job to smoke everybody, but it was easy for me to work the group when we were rucking. How much does that matter? Like, if I think, now I'm going to ruffle some feathers here. If I think the Alice pack sucks, and I go to selection and I know that they're using, an older platform, how much does that factor in? Like, my kit is better than what I'm going to be issued. Like, what are your thoughts when I say that? Like, I can ruck further, farther, faster with better kit. Like, how much does that matter with selection? Because now I'm wondering, like,
you mean like if you're training with shit gear and now you're going to selection and using, or you're training with great gear and now you go to selection and have to use shitty gear?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's two arguments to that. On one side of the equation, there's the idea that if you are increasing the overall capability or capacity of that individual by pushing them further, faster, etc., with the good gear, and that's training their body to do the thing beyond what is required at selection, that's a net positive. I would argue that the mental gymnastics that I think everybody goes through at selection is that when you enter your selection prep phase, meaning 90 to 120 days out from selection, you pick the company's selection plan that you're going to do. You actually have fucking orders to go to selection, which I would love to see. We might make it so that you can't do soft weight selection prep unless you actually have fucking orders to go. But
right.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a second program right there, like the cool one.
Dude,
when
I've
orders.
seen Matt has too. Hey man, I'm going to run selection prep for the third time. And you're like, is this your third attempt at like, why are you doing this three times?
It's normally like, I finish high school in a month, and I'm thinking that post-college, I'll be ready to go.
Yeah, and you're like, well, you're 5 years out. What the fuck are you doing? Like, get on a strength program or a stamina program. Anyway, so the mental gymnastics that everybody goes through, and I say everybody, and I mean everybody, of thinking, and it should be, like, if you're going to get selected, you should think about the boots that you're going to wear. You should think about the things that you're going to put into your body before, during, and after. I think that when you're in that 90 to 120 day phase out, if you have an ability to get a hold of the shit that you're going to have to wear in that process, then do it, right? Like, that's when you should be starting to break in. You should know the boots that you're going to wear. I think boots are insanely important to selection. When you figure out what's working for you, working well enough, just go buy 3 or 4 fucking pairs of those. I know they're expensive. Put it on your, figure it out how you're going to buy it. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your finances, but figure out how you're going to go buy 3 pairs of those, and you're going to break those in, and you're going to have your nice wool socks, and you should be training. You're now in the rehearsal phase. You're doing a 90 or 120 day trial run of making sure that you can actually do all the things that you need to do in selection. And if you're on our training plans, and there's a few others that are great, like, the physicality isn't what keeps most people out of that job. So make sure you're there, and then that allows you the mental and emotional bandwidth to focus on other things. Whereas if you wore like super comfy ultra hiking shoes, and all of your rucks were done in really nice running shorts and a nice tank top that is moisture wicking, and you had your buddy fanning you along the way for your 12-mile ruck run that you're fucking going super fast, there's going to be a little bit of a mind fuck when you go pull those boots on your feet that you've never worn, and now you have blisters, day 1 of 21 days and blah, 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 blah. So that's my thoughts. Is it's a great training tool until you're in that rehearsal phase, 90, 120 days out, and then use it. And then when you're done, I would go back to it. I would wear the most comfortable shit that you can after that process. And if you've got to go through another whatever school, then in that rehearsal phase, it's probably a good time to like dust them off. The big one that I see that we don't talk about is actually fins. So at least back in my day, when you went through any of these courses, you didn't get to pick the fins that you were wearing. You typically had 2 choices. Like, one was jet fins, and that's what I always wore, and I forget what the other fins were that everybody. I was a jet fin guy for a long time, and then after I blew my left ankle apart, I was actually fast in jet fins too. Like, I had no problem. They're like the big, thick, fucking sturdy, wide ones. They're pretty massive. And now I think they're called BioPro fins, and you're more RPM focused than torque focused, if you will. Okay. So with one set of fins, like, you're kicking really hard and really slow, and you're kicking with your hips, and your whole thing's turning over. And then with these, it's more of just like little kicks. But my ankle couldn't handle the jet fins anymore.
I fucked my ankle up so bad at uni, like a collegiate swimmer, using monofin, like the big kind of mermaid fin, like transitioning to that for a training block. I couldn't walk properly for weeks. It wrecked me. So it just shows, like you say, it shows how much something that's relatively a small change, like it adds up so quick on those reps.
Yeah, it's huge for guys too, especially like I am extremely comfortable and competent in the water, and most people are not. That's like one of the great equalizers. And so if you were not comfortable and competent in the water, and then you had to change fins, or you'd never fin that way or whatever, that can become an issue. When I think back, I trained with a handful of guys getting ready for selection, and then after selection, getting ready to go to the MARSOC ITC course. When I trained for BR Recon School, I didn't have any training partners regularly. But when I was getting ready for the MARSOC course, a couple of the guys, we went on fins pretty regularly. And I think that was a game changer for one of the guys didn't make it all the way through because of CQB. And then the other guy, he made it all the way through. And I think that was a game changer because he didn't have any open ocean.
How does someone fail CQB?
Derailing a bit. How do you fail it? Well, I could tell you how he failed it, but he pointed his gun at people you're not supposed to. They're called teammates.
No.
And
that sucks, dude.
No, if you're not. Yeah, he failed it in a pretty epic way, to be honest. But there's a lot of ways that you could fail it. We have, at least when I went through, we had you had a scorecard as you went through, and we didn't use it.
Yeah, I wanted to know what the criteria were.
Yeah, there's a scorecard, like, do you zig when you're supposed to, or do you zag? Are you doing the priorities of work? Are you executing the principles? How are your shots? That's a huge one because you're grading everybody individually. I don't know if I try really hard to not put out information about courses I've been through in units if that information is not publicly put out by that unit.
Yeah, and I think what you just said there is fine. We don't need to get into specifics.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the second subject. We've talked for 45 minutes and we barely touched on contrast. So this is something I deliberately did with my guys because with contrast training, I saw some stuff saying that it should be only reserved for really high level athletes. And that's not wrong. I think rather, to add some more color to the argument, it should be reserved to athletes that you don't have time with. So for example,
if people don't know what is contrast training, can you just provide us a background?
So if we return back to that load velocity curve that we talked about with high load and low velocity and high velocity and low load, contrast training refers to a concept where you're going to pair a high load lift, and I'm using that word lift agnostically, with a high velocity lift. So for example, a very clean cut vanilla version of this is a heavy ass trap bar deadlift paired with a box jump. So why would we do that? Well, and why would I do that with my guys? Well, because I wouldn't have time with them. And if they had been with me at least 3 weeks prior, so meaning like this is their second phase with me, maybe they visited me the last year, now we could do the cool, sexy stuff. If we start with the contrast training, and French contrast is even, so instead of doing 2 lifts, you got 4 along this load velocity curve. So meaning you're hitting strength, you're hitting strength speed, you're hitting speed strength, and you're hitting speed all in one session. You can see how if someone's brand new to this, it's not that you're going to fuck them up necessarily. It's just, firstly, there is more risk. But secondly, are they going to get what they need out of that? And I think you guys would probably agree, you're kind of flipping a coin there as to whether or not they will. However, if you're working with someone who has a high training age, we can go really fucking far. So one of my favorite go-tos, mid-thigh iso pull, split stance, paired with a rear foot elevated split squat, strength speed, paired with a split leg box jump for the forward leg. And I can't recall, bounding, I think, was the last one. So right there, that's a fucking nasty session. So I bring that up, Brent, because I'm fairly certain I've had you do that cycle, some variation of it, at least twice when working with me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk about the benefits therein as far as why we would do that. So who wants to go first?
We want to talk about the benefits first or the negatives first?
Yes.
So the negative that I've seen is in guys who have a diminished strength endurance capacity. You'll see a degradation in their output pretty quickly as they move rep to rep, et cetera, right? So where I see this degrade is when you're low weight, like move light shit fast, like your body weight going really fast movements, those get degraded in a way that is like, I want to say multiplied exponentially. That's probably incorrect, but it's degraded more because they have a lack of like actual true muscular endurance, and they're just smoked 2 movements into this thing and they can't go through the whole progression is where I see it not paying out very well. I think there's also an argument to be made there that if you're including movements where you're trying to change a movement pattern, which is kind of like what you're talking about, you're trying to talk about changing movement patterns and the shapes people are hitting. You'll see to your point and Matt's point in some of our previous discussions with my personal training that they're going to revert to hitting the old shapes as the training degrades. So they may start out in a very positive manner early in that French contrast, and then they may move into a more hamstring heavy or quad heavy or whatever it is movement pattern as they get down that funnel, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I suppose that's why it had to be reserved for later, because you needed the resilience to handle it, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think you need the training age to know, like, okay, like if we look at this, the let's say the third phase, loaded power, so ballistic / speed strength. This is light rapid movement with external resistance, i.e. at 30% of your 1 rep max, and then you're going to move into overall or assisted like super high speed training. So if you want to do those things, you want to move shit really fast, you need to realize that your maximal strength training, high load, low velocity, that really should not be at the like shaking last rep as your two sets into this thing, right? And so part of that is on the coach and part of that is on the athlete. Where I see the greatest benefit to this is when we can hold the same shapes across those different modalities so that they actually start to become a net benefit in application, not necessarily training.
So we've talked about, like, let's say the measurables, the quantitatives, as far as what that is, like speed, strength, speed. Why is this something worth looking into?
Matt?
I think kind of like you guys have alluded to, it's just when you're trying to drive adaptation out of someone who is already adapted, like when what you're doing no longer works. Like you'd get results if you started your 13, 14-year-old off on French contrast, but you probably find it easier to get results doing stuff that's simpler and kind of lower level. Where this stuff, like you guys have said, where this stuff really comes into its own is when you've got someone that can handle the density. And probably also kind of has the like mental and emotional maturity to understand what you're trying to do. So it's not just like a circuit. It's not like a conditioning circuit. It's intensity is what you're chasing. And I think if you're contemplating...
Hang on, can we back that up? I want to highlight that for like a second time specifically for our population. It's not a conditioning circuit.
So what I was going to say for that, specifically for our guys, what I have found really helpful in the past is for everything, or for as many things as you're doing, as many things as possible that you're putting into your complex or your contrast block, try and have a quantified output. So try and have, if you're tracking barbell speed or if you're tracking vertical jump height, have some way of monitoring performance and by extension fatigue and auto-regulate it. So we talked about G circuit, if instead of a box jump or something, if you have like a vertical jump where if you're fancy and you've got a vertex and you can keep rolling.
Keep going, Matt. Yeah.
Okay. If you've got something like a vertex where you can kind of hit the veins or you can measure jump height, one way of quantifying how high you're getting. If you're seeing more than, say, 2, 3, 5% is a big drop off. If you're seeing a drop off of more than that, done. Like that's you finished. And that's how you prevent it then becoming like a hero WOD where you're kind of barely getting off the floor because then you lose the purpose of it, which is to chase high intensity, big motor unit output.
I like to say rest is your friend.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, real quick. So I like to quantify the rest, meaning if we're doing French contrast, that means 4 exercises in one block. When you finish exercise 4, you're resting for around 3 minutes minimum. Like it's okay if you rest for 7. And then by extension, the rest in between each exercise needs to be minimized. So you go straight from rear foot elevated mid-thigh isopole to rear foot elevated split squat. Like that walk over to your split squat is your rest. So that should be around 20 to 30 seconds max. 15 in my mind is ideal. So that means everything needs to be close together.
So
Brent,
one of the concepts that is like, I think kind of debated at this point, maybe not, maybe you guys will correct me, is post-activation potentiation, meaning we used a thing to do a thing, and we're going to go do something similar, and we should theoretically use that same thing to do the next thing. Is that a good simplified way of putting that?
Heavy bat to your normal bat.
Yeah, so we used a muscle, we used a glute to execute a movement, and now we're going to do a similar movement, and since that glute is warmed up and it's firing, now theoretically we should use that again. Now, we've talked about this ad nauseum between the three of us and individually quite a bit. And there's a theory that doesn't cross over as well as we want it to, which I guess is if French contrast training is the idea that we're going to get all of these things firing, we're going to get them working in this movement. That's going to permeate from slow to fast, which is kind of the theory that we've gone with. Then I think there's an argument there that but you just addressed it. If we stretch these out further, whereas I had to look it up because there's so many times that we take good training principles and then we change them and they get changed very bastardized, right? And so like I'm reading one of the ways that people are prescribing this is only 20 seconds of rest between moves.
Yeah,
and then 2 to 5s between sets, right? And so where we've I think we have the good concept, and I think the 20 seconds of rest is where we start to bastardize the output, meaning you're not going to lose the potentiation after 20 seconds. So what are we gaining by going at 20 seconds versus a minute, right? If we've got a better recovery, et cetera. So I think
of it like almost like, if it helps for listeners, think of it almost like a scale, and you're trying to get the balance, you're trying to get the optimum balance between that potentiation, that like increased output that Brent's talking about, and then fatigue not being so high that it like tips you either way.
Yeah.
Or so maybe that's perhaps a better analogy.
Yeah. So I actually view this whole pre and post potentiation, this pre and post activation and potentiation piece as being a part of a really long-term problem set. Like, as you and Matt have talked me through my own like deficiencies, back issues, ways that I've had pain go away, ways it's come back, ways that I've been able to perform in different things, with reduced pain. I look at that as how the 20 seconds between, I think, is probably great for like a really fucking high level athlete that can recover quickly. But somebody who can't, and that could be due to injury, the person who can't recover quickly, I think, is where we have that, well, if they're not in this 20-minute or 20-second block, now are we really doing it? And I think it's okay to bastardize that a bit and go, hey, are they fully recovered to where they're hitting the correct shape so that we have the crossover and we don't have them being fatigued and that bleeding into them.
I think it kind of goes back to what we talked about at the top of the conversation, where like maybe if that's the case, like if someone isn't recovering enough between a max effort ISO deadlift is nails. Like for G to start out with that is solid. And if you're not able to recover between that and the next piece, again, that's maybe when you have the periodization conversation. Like, is French contrast the most appropriate training tool for you at the moment? Or actually, would we get more out of maybe doing some repeated effort, like some metabolic
or just bastardize it a bit?
Well, that's
I think I disagree. I think I disagree. I think if you're not in shape enough to be able to do this training, we probably should be doing other stuff, and then we can put this on the end and do it down the line. And I see that as being a real plus of periodization. Sorry, you go.
Yeah, no, you're good. So this is where I would use some nuance, because normally, Matt, to your point, we can just do French contrast later. I wouldn't have that luxury with these guys. So what I would do instead is, rather than, okay, let's reduce the load. The most important thing, I think, when it comes to contrast training is intent. Particularly, Brent, when you're bringing up, like, is this guy dealing with an injury? Like, intent matters more. So I need that person to express force. I need them to move something heavy quickly, so speed, strength, or I need them to move something fast that's heavy. Well, I got that backwards. Strength, speed, and speed, strength. Anyway, that's more important. So what I would do is simply reduce to use your word, bastardize, Brent, reduce the number of exercises. So rather than French contrast, which is very sexy, I love it, we would just do contrast. So the trap bar with the box jump. There, now you have something heavy and now you have something fast.
Well, so I think you see that more than the French contrast training. I think
it's just easier to operationalize too.
Yeah, it's easier to operationalize. And as we look at using the gym space, when you're taking up 2 stations, if you're in a public gym, you kind of feel like a dickhead. When you're taking up 3, you might be a dickhead. If you're taking up 4, you're definitely a dickhead, right? So when we start looking at the realities of implementing this training, if it's the world's greatest protocol and nobody's going to do it, then it's not the world's greatest anymore. But I don't know.
I need to go film myself doing French contrast in a big box gym.
Yeah,
I was going to say, just to play devil's advocate to that, if you're running a station-based gym, it's actually the other way. It actually becomes logistically way easier, because rather than having to have one rack per person, you can like group people and effectively. Totally, I know we said it's not circuit training, but you can circuit people round. So logistically, if you're lucky enough to be in that environment, it's actually something to consider, because you don't then have those like bottlenecks where, okay, everybody's got to go through 5 sets of squats. Okay, right through.
Yeah.
You can just like run people through real quick.
So question, let's talk about contrast examples. So one of my other ones that are kind of underrated, heavy weighted pull-ups paired with a tall kneeling med ball slam. So what are some other contrast modalities?
You could do a heavy weighted pull-up and go same and have an unweighted jumping pull-up. or explode dynamic
I think
pull-up.
jumping pull-ups are like the most underrated. CrossFit fucked that for us. CrossFit's like kind of dancing pull-up. That messed that up so bad. The jumping pull-up is incredible as like a power development exercise if you're doing them as like single.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a great one, Brent.
I'm going to go on the tangent. The anti-CrossFit movement and the science-based lifter movement has made the fitness internet so fucking stupid now. Guys are debating like whether this is locked out or if it has to be hyperextended, for the bottom of your pull. You're not doing real pull-ups because you didn't hyperextend your elbows, right? Like the bottom and having tension in your elbows was not allowed anymore. I was like, man, I thought it was bad when I was in the Marine Corps. Like, Instagram 2026 is out-retarded the Marine Corps. It's fucking brilliant. But no, so good contrast there. I'm a big fan, too, of sledges. Like, I think we got away from sledges because they were used as a conditioning tool, and they're not really a great conditioning tool. But as far as a rate of force production tool, like, you get a lot of speed out of that. So, again, I love pull-ups, but you could do a heavy lat pull down. Or a weighted pull-up, much heavier, and then you could also get into sledges, right? And that's gonna now be, that would be the second and third quadrants of your French contrast. Yeah.
Sorry, Brent, I'm going to be the dumbass Brit here. Do you mean, are you talking sledgehammers? Or are you talking pushing a sled?
Sledgehammers.
Cool. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Just like ultra high velocity, you're getting a pattern that I think is super useful.
Yeah.
You could even get into like a jammer arm punch and then hitting a heavy bag. Like that would be another great one.
Fun fact, I nearly killed George with a sledgehammer at one of the shoots we had in Black Rifle doing that.
You nearly killed him. Yeah.
Very close. He got a bit close with the camera and was like super sucked into the lens. And it was tight.
Yeah.
Just another one, heavy bench with med ball chest pass.
Yeah, heavy bench, med ball, chest pass is a great one. You could also do heavy bench and then like clapping pull up, right?
Yes.
Or clapping push up rather, or like a med ball dynamic, push up type deal.
I know this is slightly different to what you guys are talking about, but personally, so I was going to ask you both what your training's looking like at the moment and if you use any of this stuff. Something I've been playing around with a lot lately in my creative corner is those real high tension sub 10 seconds isometrics. So like G was kind of pulling on a deadlift, but maybe doing something like that against the pins on a bench. So like an ISO bench, and then going into something that's over speed. So that if you're going back to the French contrast, that's that like far kind of corner of it. So for something like a bench, it might be like a band assisted push up. So you've got a band around the top of the rack, around your chest, and you're like getting pulled back up. So it's way faster than you would normally do something like a clapping push up. That stuff I found just to be fun. It's pretty cool. Same thing with overspeed jumping. That's pretty sweet. Definitely something to try. But yeah, is this something you guys have used or are using?
So I just started. I'm in week 1.5 of getting back on my smart bike trainer.
Oh, nice.
And I gotta say now, part of this, I did my the FTP. We talked about this, Matt. Like I was dreading it.
Yeah.
And I was right to dread it. But my dog, Hustle, he's got a healer mix and he's very fucking bite driven. So he's watching this pedal go around and around and around, and it starts biting. I'm like, dude, you're going to break something on his face. So there was that, and then my stomach was upset. So I actually scored 20% less than I did the last time I did an FTP. That being said, I've cycled every day except yesterday because the form I'm using, Trainer Road, insisted on, my monitor shut off for a second, insisted on taking a rest day. So I lifted instead. And the reason for that is I have this mountain biking trip coming up in September. So my lifting is probably going to be upper body biased. I'll probably have one day a week where I'm hitting the lower body pretty hard. But it really is, I'm trying to work with this Trainer Road program that they're giving me, but it lives and breathes kind of like the Softly program does. And it does not like what I'm doing right now. It thinks I'm going to die and have a heart attack. So that's where I'm at with my training. Brent?
Yeah, I'm at an impasse. So I was doing det cord with a supplemental run program.
That's a lot of volume.
Yeah, when I say supplemental run program, I was subbing in runs, utilize and helping guide that with the supplemental run program. And so, as we've talked about, I'm actually not supposed to be running anymore, and I decided I wanted to.
Are you running on the street?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll run on the grass where it's nice next to the street. And now I'm going back to, I don't know if I'm going to stay on deck cord and finish it out and then sub in the bike, but I've got my gravel bike dusted off. And my wife was intelligent, was like, hey, fuckface, your hips and back and feet and knees and everything hurts like hell. And you've been running again. And that's probably why. So it just exacerbates the injuries that I have. And so I'm going to go back to something more cycling focused. I'm having a debate right now. You guys will laugh at this. My bike is it's a total fucking dad bike. So like I'm a big believer that if it doesn't look right, it shouldn't be in our content. And Reed, one of our guys who's a competitive triathlete, hybrid athlete, is like, oh, let's go for some rides. He's actually moving to the Charlotte area. And I'm like, one, I'm not fucking keeping up with a competitive Ironman on a bike. Like, it ain't happening. But two, I'm definitely not putting that bike in any content. So it's like, I bought it to literally mount a kid's seat to the top of the frame. It's like a sparkly black color. It's like as dumb as you can get. So anyway, I've been on deck cord. I've been subbing in some of the stuff that we're talking about for the work. So I've really been working on my laterals, my vert, and then I was running as a big part of that program for the training, the conditioning modules. And now I got to swap in a bike, but I think I'm going to try to rearrange the garage, sell a gun safe that's in there, and then buy a ski erg to stick in there because the ski erg helps tremendously with my herniated discs in my neck and back. So
nice.
Yeah.
Have you got anything like that? I know G's got his mountain bike race and then some honking endurance run he wants to do in a couple of years.
Yes, that was the other thing.
Have you got anything like I know you compete like in shooting and stuff, but anything on the horizon like that?
No, I haven't even shot a fucking shooting match this year. So I've been dry firing and getting to the range pretty regularly. I might shoot, it's called Race Gun Nationals. So I may show up at a national level event and embarrass myself in, I think, November or October. But no, I don't have any competitions on the horizon. I need to get, like, my bike is supposed to be a gravel bike. So I need to either get it set up appropriately to actually go do a gravel bike race or ride and then set my sights on that. But time is such a premium for me that I haven't put it on gravel. It's just been a road bike with a shitload of rolling resistance, which I kind of want to talk about that. I have a YouTube video teed up currently that talks about specific training versus general training and where that crossover can blend back and forth. And so one of the things that I want to talk about is specifically with cycling, it's really easy to go, well, yeah, I need $10,000 worth of carbon fiber bike and shoes and helmet and pants and all of that. But if you're not a cyclist, which nobody on Softly's training plans is a professional cyclist, that shit is irrelevant. And you're just cycling as part of the broader fitness equation. And so it's totally cool to have, not optimal gear for that. So,
well, I would argue too, like it's cheaper too.
Well, it's way cheaper, right? You're on
the delta between mountain biking kit and road kit is fucking crazy. Like the road shoes that I've been looking, like the new road shoes are out. I'm like, okay, because I'm going to get a road bike here in the fall, winter.
Yeah.
And which is nice.
Are you getting a Canyon or what are you going to get?
It's a company. It's a U.S. based company called Stinner, and they make the bikes out of California. And I'm going to be getting their steel because I need something. So I'm looking at my old hybrid bike, which served me well, but I didn't realize how poorly it fit me and was fucking me up. Like my knee was, anyways, the wrong size bike for me. So I'm getting a steel bike from Stinner, which is their entry level. But really, I'm probably going to prioritize mountain biking. So I don't need like their top of the line, which is like, 15, 20.
They're pretty affordable, actually. And when I say that, I realize that these are big fucking numbers for everybody, including myself, but they have a full complete bike for $4,000 for a nice high.
That's cheaper than what I remember.
I mean, it's more than my car's worth, but I feel you.
Right? Yeah. Hey, my bike already as is probably is worth more than my Honda. But anyway, yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I don't remember where I was talking about there. As far as
what's the cycling like for you guys? Like, what's kind of road cycling like for you guys? Can you can you just like where you live, can you ride pretty safely? Because like we've got some beautiful roads, but I wouldn't want to roll the dice.
I can't remember where it lies, but Phoenix. I know it's top
number
50
2 in the country.
Yeah, it's up there. It's up there, and then so that's on my mind. Is particularly I'm in Phoenix Metro, so I'm not even where like Brent used to live, like North Scottsdale, where there's less density. I'm in a higher density area, so it's of concern to me. So that's why I want to prioritize mountain biking, because if I'm going to get hit, I'd rather it be the mountain that hits me, not somebody's truck, because they were texting.
Yeah. Also, Matt, I do not ride a $4,000 bike. I currently ride like a $800 bike that I've had for 6 fucking years. So
there's nothing wrong with that. Like,
but I'm a big, so for riding, I have an out and back. I sit on a corner and it's like a farm road. So it's paved, but it's a very narrow paved road, and an out and back is a 10K for me. So it's enough that like I'm doing laps on a gravel bike to do it, but it's not so short, like it's not a 400-meter track that I'm going around a million fucking times. And so with running, it was nice because it was like I'm not running longer than a fucking 10K ever again anyway. So I never was going to have to see the same stuff more than twice. And then I'll do laps. I'll do like 2 or 3 laps on the road bike of it. But up the road, there's a few trails around here where I think I could loop together a couple hours on a gravel bike.
Nice.
And then I'm not, my point with that little side road is it's not like a throughway that people are using in travel. So it's pretty fucking safe. Like I think it's pretty safe compared to other rides, because I would not ride, like I'm in the country, but it's a highway in the country. It's a 2-lane highway that goes between cities. And I don't like riding on that. I've bopped out on it a couple times and I'm like, fuck this, I'm going to die. Where the gravel bike is nice is I'll get in the grass. Like I'll ride on the grass if there's a lot of cars or I got to get around somebody. But I'm not a cyclist. I'm trying to hit my zone 2, zone 3 markers. Time is the equation for me, not speed or cadence or any of those things. Yeah. Like I don't even know. And it's funny because, what's that?
Sorry. I was just going to say that the bike I'm getting is an all-road. It's not even a proper road bike. It's meant to go in between. And my intent is to, if I'm going to take it long distances, try to bias like the canals where there are no cars.
Is that the Carrizo? Is that the model you're looking at?
That's what I'm looking at, the Carrizo. Yeah.
What's the difference? We're going to go on a fucking rabbit hole here for funsies, but
we're already over time.
Yeah. What's the difference between an all-road and a gravel bike?
All-road can better function as a straight-up road bike, whereas a gravel road, the tire diameter is generally wider. So, for example, an all-road, you might see max tire width at 38 centimeters. 38? No, not centimeters, millimeters. Whereas with a gravel bike, they'll start at like 38 and they'll go up to 52. So it really depends. I would say grip is more prioritized with a gravel bike. By extension, comfort as well, because you got a wider surface patch and therefore you can run lower pressures than you can with an all-road or a road bike. A road bike.
So I'm on an all-road bike then, because I wanted to put a fatter gravel tire on, and it was like, that ain't happening. I don't have the clearance.
Yeah, so then, which works. And I think of it as a more, the other reason I'm looking at the Carrizo is and not a gravel bike is because I want a faster bike. Because the bike I have right now, the hybrid, is slow as fuck, and my mountain bike is faster than that bike, and it drives me crazy. Yeah.
So that factors, man. I don't know how much you know about cycling, but where it really matters is like your rolling resistance and then the efficiency of pedaling. So and so to say like when I'm like, oh, $4,000 for a made in USA bicycle is like relatively not affordable, but not a hateful price. There's made in Taiwan gravel bikes and road bikes that are $10,000-$15,000.
Yep.
So if somebody has something that's decent, made in USA, like the frame is $1,700, $1,800, that's a pretty reasonable price for a made in USA bike. I'm a big proponent of I try to buy made in USA when I can. And when it fits, and a lot of times that means maybe not buying the top-notch thing, keeping it longer. Obviously you've got to make some cuts. So if you're the dude that wants to new bike every year, it's probably not worth the delta,
No.
from. But even if you look, I just looked up. I'm gonna look up a Canyon real quick.
Yeah, so I have for listeners, I have a 2022 Stumpy Expert stump jumper from Specialized. So I'm not opposed to buying outside of the U.S. It's just in this case, it's more realistic for me to buy.
So if you were
we
going
don't
to buy
have urban manufacturing like Asia does.
like a decent, so here's a decent aluminum gravel bike from Canyon. So it's made, this is direct to consumer, but made in Taiwan. The cheapest bike they have is an MSRP of $3,000. So to go from that to $4,000 for made in USA,
it's attainable. Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not a small amount of money, but it's possible. So
I would say if you're starting to get into cycling, you shouldn't buy.
No, go buy like an $800.
Yeah,
what's
see
the
if you
cheapest? Go buy something used off a marketplace that's your size. That's the other thing is people don't understand is your bike should be sized to you. So that's a huge game changer. So I think I'm on a 58.
I realized. So I never mentioned this, and now we're getting really off topic. The smart bike trainer that I had, when I started using it, I had a Canyon Neuron AL6 from 2018, and it would kill me. Like the saddle, like after 45 minutes, I would be dying. And then couple that with the cranks being too long. So my body was pretty fucked up. And I thought I needed this special thing called a kicker plate that kind of like makes the trainer move around. It's not normal for the bike to be so static and locked down to where your sit bones are in the same exact position over 45 minutes. So anyway, I hooked up the Stumpy for the first time this week. And I was kind of nervous about that because it's my pride and joy, so to speak. And I haven't really had any issues. So the fit really matters. So it totally, like, I don't need to buy that kicker plate anymore. I can keep my normal Stumpy. I didn't realize how much of a difference it made. So if the bike isn't working for you guys, it might be the wrong size. It may not be you. It may be the bike. I know we don't like to hear that, just tough it out, but it may be the equipment. So.
Yeah, it's I'm going to go down that rabbit hole on the firearm space because there's a whole movement right now again of you don't need to change your equipment to your build. Like, well, you're 5'7" and I'm 6'2", so maybe it's a little fucking different.
Yeah.
But
a reminder to finish my.
I will say that getting a good bike, like a decent bike from I rode a Schwinn that I think I got from a pawn shop I rode it for a couple of years, actually. And the difference just from that to like a $900 all-road bike was like, shit, this is, it's like I went from driving the Ford Model T to a Corolla, and I was like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah, I went from a Corolla to a fucking Lamborghini. It was fucking great. I love that bike. Yeah.
Now, I have a...
that too. When you buy like the top of the line right out of the gate, you won't know how awesome it is.
Yeah, you don't appreciate it for sure. So I actually have, you borrowed it for a few months, I think. I've got a carbon fiber mountain bike that's like, it's the pinnacle, but I built it. I got a deal on the frame. It was like a half off deal on the frame. And then everything else that went onto it, I built a website for a bike shop and they gave me all the other parts.
I think I remember this story. It kind of went south a little bit.
Yeah, I built like a $7,000 or $8,000 bike for like $1,600 or something, but
it's crazy.
I can't ride it here. There's no
it's too flat over there, isn't it?
It's too flat, so I got to sell that thing.
A big bike. Yeah,
it's a big bike. Like it was great for Arizona where you're just like hit downhill sections and smashing big rocks and all of that. But here
very
it's
confident descending bike. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a ton of fun. It doesn't pedal great, but not the worst. And so I got to hawk that thing and maybe I'll get a real bike.
All right. Well, I feel like, man, this is the longest record we've ever done.
Yep. Are you guys all? Oh, you got to stop it and then it'll finish uploading.
Correct. But it looks like we're all at 99%. Cool. All right. Well, listeners, that's going to do it for us today. When this episode drops, I believe we will be at TSAC. If not, then if I got my timing wrong, it'll be the week thereafter. So anyway, you guys have a great day. Die living.